right, you are back with comedian David Boyle, and I'm quitting alcohol. So tomorrow's Anzac Day, and we are making the biannual trek up to Port Macquarie to see my mum and my brother. It's always good seeing those kooky cats. Fucking hell. We're staying at the Airbnb farm we stayed on last time, and the kids love that, so I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be nice just to get a little fucking holiday in. That's exactly what I need, another holiday. It'll give me something to talk about, at least. I tell you what I'm bringing back next week. I'm bringing back Boyle Breaks History. It's been a long hiatus, but I've been delving into World War One the last 4 or 5 days, because it seems like that's where everything fucking started going wrong. It was around then that the central banking began. Well, the Federal Reserve Act in the US got passed. I think that was 1917 or 1913. Unlucky 13. Enacted by Woodrow fucking Wilson, that puppet of the fucking banking cartels. Look into that fucking piece of shit. And also at the same time, by the same fucking piece of shit, Woodrow Wilson, who was a complete shill. He was chosen by the banking cartel to become president. And then he just did everything they fucking wanted. And one of those things was get into World War One. And from what I've read and from what I can tell, Germany was pretty much provoked into a war they didn't want to have by England, but not really England. A few fucking powerful people in England. They felt that Germany was a threat. Germany had just been created, but they were so fucking efficient and so fucking productive that within 3 or 4 years, they became a regional threat. Not that they were threatening anyone either. It's just that they had potential to become a threat. So the secret society in England, I think it was led by Cecil Rhodes or some shit like that. Anyway, let's just call it England. They wanted to defang Germany, but they also wanted to reclaim the US. They were still fucking pissed that the US had broken away from England. And the US didn't want to have any part of this fucking war. They got dragged into it, and the propaganda just to start World War One was fucking insane. It does parallel a lot with what's happening with Russia at the moment, and even a little bit with the Hamas, Palestinians. The propaganda about Germany was they were chopping babies' heads off and putting them on skewers and shit like that. They just made the Germans out to be the most evil people in the world. This is World War One. This is before Nazi Hitler and shit. This is 1913. And then there was a false flag attack. There was a cruise ship that they said was torpedoed by the German army, and they said it was a passenger ship, and it killed 1,200 people on board and all this, and it was in the news, German attack, but it was actually a munition ship carrying soldiers and munitions. Anyway, I haven't really read enough or watched enough to get the full fucking details, but World War One was shady as fuck. And all the events leading up to World War One, shady as fuck as well. The Boer War in South Africa, shady as fuck as well. It seems like all these wars are bankers' wars. It's definitely not the people's wars. The people get dragged into it. You can't fight in wars. It's an absolute fucking con job. You think you're fighting for peace and freedom or whatever. You scratch the surface, you're fighting for a bunch of elites' fucking interests. It feels like the Civil War was won by the right people, and then many years later, the government and every single position of power was overtaken and filled by the people who lost the war. So they just continued their agenda anyway. 1913, a big year. Woodrow Wilson. passing the Federal Reserve Act and the Income Tax Act or bill, whatever the fuck it is. Before I start talking about history, I should probably get like some of the facts down. Basically, this is what I do when I read history. I just get a feel for it. I don't really remember dates or times or names. I just sort of get a feel for like intention. What's going on here? What's the vibe? I get a vibe. History is all about vibes. England were not sending out good vibes. Like, they were imperialists. They wanted to take over the world. How could they not have been fucking pieces of shit? The sun didn't set on the British Empire. That's how much of the world they had. And I bet it would have really hurt that they lost the US. And those cunts, the bankers and whoever fucking the underbelly of that shit is, who's really running the shit, they would have been pissed at that. They would have been like, we're getting that fucking country back no matter what. And so I think sometime around fucking maybe 1910, 11, just before World War I, there was a hostile takeover of America by the people who lost the Civil War. Not so much a hostile takeover, but more like invisible takeover. Something happened back then, and the repercussions of that are still being felt now. So I'm going to come back next week for Boyle Breaks History with some goddamn facts. I'm going to get to the bottom of this shit because I smell a fucking rat. And the difficulty is history gets written by the winners, so you don't really get the full context of what the fuck happened. All you get is, yeah, the Germans were fucking evil cunts back in World War I, so we had to punish them. All you really get is we were the winners, we were the good guys, and the other guys were evil. The winners are always the good guys. That's the problem with history. Everyone who wins is the good guy. And in war, that is a little bit of a paradox because the only way you can win war is by out-destroying your opposition. So, I don't know. The fog of war, they call it. Anyway, I'm going to actually do some digging and you're going to get some facts next week for Boyle Breaks History. Anyway, the DeGenny Diaries came out. The fucking DeGenny that I was meant to do the DeGenny Diaries with fucking hasn't replied to me still. We were meant to do it Sunday. Then I tried to make it Monday. And then I was like, even Tuesday. We can bang it out on Tuesday. And no response. So I went to a backup. They couldn't do it. So I just had to release Catherine's episode. And it's a fucking banger anyway. I was going to release it when she's going to Edinburgh so some people would go see her, but, you know, I needed to use it now. So Catherine is an American comedian. She's married to Mark, who you heard is the Jenny Diaries story. Irish Mark had the banger of a fucking story, and Catherine's ep is fucking wild. She's going through a Kundalini awakening, and she talks about that, and it's wild stuff. So get onto it. If you want to get involved with the DeGenny Diaries, then head to my website and join the Patreon. You'll see the link there, boylecomedy.com. But for now, that's it, and I'll see you the fuck later.